MTG Scoundrels, it's in the cardboard. Ladies and gentlemen, scoundrels of all ages, welcome back to another episode of Modern Weekly. Today on the docket, we have Goryo's Vengeance and Bant Nadu. Goryo's Vengeance being a mainstay in the format. Has a very quick clock. And of course, Bant Nadu being the best deck in the format and the most consistent win condition in the format by far. Looks like we're starting off here. Goryo's on 6, fetching. Finding a Godless Shrine. And there's a Thoughtseize, bringing us to 15 to 20. A lot of options here. Looks like taking the Shuko and passing the turn. Lush Portico, surveilling, keeping it on top and passing the turn. Second Thoughtseize. Bring us to 13 to 20. This time taking the Nantuko. Springheart Nantuko, really the engine ultimately that makes this deck go. You do have Nadu, but Nantuko, every time you hit a land, drop off Nadu, just making a creature to give you more targets for Shuko is how that deck really runs. Surveilling, keeping it on top, passing the turn. There's a Wall of Roots, passing. And there is a Psychic Frog. As we learned last week, one of the strongest cards in the format. There's a Delighted Halfling. And passing. Psychic Frog, gaining flying off of removing 3 cards from the graveyard and attacking it. Bring us to 13 to 19. Polluted Delta into a Philology Archaeologist. Milling 3, no hits. Though there is now an Atraxa in the bin. And that's how these Goryo's Vengeance decks really just take control of the game. Windswept Heath, cracking. Probably just trying to find another Surveil land here. There's the Hedge Maze. We'll see a Surveil here shortly. They do say half the modern format is shuffling. There's the surveil. Delighted halfling being surveilled to the bin. Untapping. Drawing. A lot of mana up. Is there anything to do with it here? Or do you wait for Goryos to make the first move? Land for turn. Looks like a breeding pool going to 16. And passing. Fluted Delta being cracked here. Finding in surveil land. Under city sewers, it looks like. Putting a Grizzlebrand into the bin. Untap and draw. The real question, giving the frog flying once again, attacking in. The real question is, what answers does Bant Nadu have main board? Alright, looks like Cord for 3. Goryo's player letting it happen. Main answer probably being Endurance here. Yep, there it is. Endurance going to be targeting the Goryo's player's graveyard. But in response, there is the card the deck's named after, Goryo's Vengeance. Targeting the Atraxa Grand Unifier. Ten cards off the top, reveal them, and then choose one of each type to put into your hand. Yeah, taking a Prismatic Ending, an Ephemerate, 1 land, and a Priest of Fell Rites. Putting the rest in a random order on the bottom of their library. Endurance resolves. Shuffling the Grizzlebrand and the Goryo's Vengeance to the bottom of the library of the Goryo's Vengeance player. Psychic Frog getting in, looks like no blocks. And there is an Ephemerate targeting the Atraxa to keep it on the battlefield so it doesn't sacrifice to the Goryo's Vengeance. Looks like probably just getting 3 cards here. 1 land. A Solitude. And looks like a copy of Goryo's Vengeance here. Yep, all those going to hand. And this is one of the many ways that the Goryo's Vengeance deck just outvalues its opponent. And they'll scoop them up from there. Getting through that much card advantage in Atraxa a little bit too tough here. And we'll move on to Game 2. Game 1 going to Goryo's Vengeance. Thank you all so much for watching us here at MTG Scoundrels. We appreciate your time. If you enjoy our content, please drop a like, subscribe if you can. Be a friend, tell a friend. Sideboarding's an interesting proposition here against Nadu. Probably bringing in a certain amount of removal. Wouldn't be surprised if there's some Wrath of Skies to try to take out the early problematic cards here. Now when I say early problematic cards, I'm generally just talking about Delighted Halfling, Wall of Roots. The stuff that really accelerates what's going on early for these Nadu lists. And of course, if early Springheart and Nantuko lands, you definitely want Wrath of Skies to try to take care of business. In terms of Bant Nadu, probably a little bit of graveyard hate. But there's a certain amount of what do you bring in really when you can just kind of go off. Granted, we saw Goryo's Vengeance here at its peak, honestly. Thoughtseize. Getting rid of the 2 main threats and then the Nadu player just not drawing anything else. Get to Goryo's Vengeance, ultimately into Atraxa, then you hit Ephemerate and keep Atraxa on the board. That's what you want to do. Now, if you're interested in either of these decks, you can check the description below to find deck lists, as well as timestamps of the individual games. And if you're interested in picking up some stained glass tokens, check out our friends over at Arcane Artistry. They make wonderful food, treasure, and clue tokens in the stained glass style. Put them next to each other. They make a panorama, which is fantastic. High quality. Definitely worth checking out. And in the future here, they might be bringing out some more tokens. Specifically ones that are being played in Modern even more heavily than the previous batch. So keep an eye out for those, and we'll definitely have a video covering those in the future once they, or at least an ad covering those, so you can take a look at them. Etsy link in the description. Speaking of Arcane Artistry, our friend Aaron here, owner of Arcane Artistry, on the Nadu list. Alex here, first time on the channel, playing Goryo's Vengeance, and we're starting Game 2. Looks like Urza's Saga was started there. That's the easy way to find Nantuko. Or not, excuse me, not Nantuko, to find Shuko. They both rhyme, look at that. Polluted Delta there in passing. Urza Saga going up to 2. Land for turn. Springheart Nantuko. That's really how you get the game started. Cracking the fetch. Finding a surveil land. There's the surveil. Interesting spot. We're going to start with a Thoughtseize. Well, you have Pact. You kind of have to take Pact here. Bringing us to 17 to 20. Still got a Teferi and a Court of Calling in hand. There's the land for turn. Alright, there's a Grief exiling a Griselbrand. Same cards. What do you take? I guess taking the Teferi here. Though taking Teferi is not an easy choice. But given the mana on the table. Floating a mana. Now you just have to hope they didn't top deck Nadu. Because there's the Shuko. Cracking the Misty Rainforest here. Ultimately going to get 2 insects. And there's the Court of Calling. So ultimately how this happens to go get Nadu. Floated a mana off of the Urza Saga. Went and found Shuko. Played the Misty Rainforest for turn. Shocked in a breeding pool. 2 insects made off the Nantuko. Proceeded to chord for 3 to find Nadu. And here we go. Fruit Loops at their finest. Land coming into play. Making an insect. Insect finds a Shuko. Shuko goes to hand. Nadu going to hand. Shuko going to hand. Have to miss a couple more times here. Nope, there's a land. Finding an insect. First target. Finding a land, making another insect. Chord goes to hand. And that's pretty much game. You chord to go find the second Nantuko, and then you just don't miss. Game 2, going to Bant Nadu. Fruit Loop's doing its thing here. Thank you all so much for watching us here at MTG Scoundrels. Once again, if you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe, be a friend, tell a friend, and celebrate with us, as hopefully this is the last week of Bant Nadu as a deck in the modern format. I've put in a couple of hints here and there to celebrate it. But the deck is quite absurd. While beatable, it's just so consistent. If you don't kill them by turn 3 or 4, you really have to hope that they just keep bricking and they don't find ways to find Nadu and have Shuko. And of course, Springheart Nantuko really just makes the engine go off the rails. To essentially explain the win condition, at a certain point, you'll be able to Boseiju all your opponent's lands away, clear their board with Otawara, and keep looping these with Endurance. By keeping Boseiju and Otawara in your deck, it really just is quite the deck. Whoever wrote the wording for Nadu really needs to take a look in the mirror. It's kind of insane. A little bit back to player introductions. Of course, we have Aaron, who's the owner of this Nadu list, and the owner of Arcane Artistry. Check out their tokens in the description below. And of course, we have Alex. This is Alex's first time on the channel, playing Goryo's Vengeance. Local beloved player. And we appreciate Alex for coming out, providing some more deck diversity to the channel. Looks like Goryo's Vengeance going to 6 here. Might actually be going to 5. We'll see. Goryo's Vengeance is one of the fastest decks in the format, and the reanimator targets in general have just gotten so much better. Between Atraxa, you already had Grizzlebrand, but Atraxa just letting you get 4 more cards off the top of your library on average is kind of insane. Put them into your hand immediately. And of course, Grizzlebrand exists in the deck as well, and that card has been a reanimator target for its entire existence. Then you just add Grief and Solitude with a mini scam package. And Psychic Frog now being able to make you, well, it's a free discard outlet. You know, you're discarding Atraxa, you're discarding Grizzlebrand. Or whatever card you're wanting to reanimate if you don't have the mana to cast it. It's really what you want to be doing. Now, of course, the Archaeologist was printed back in Brothers War, and that card has just made it easier to fill your graveyard and find cards like Goryo's Vengeance and Ephemerate to be able to keep your targets on the battlefield. Looks like we're starting with a Surveil land, keeping it on top and passing the turn. Fetching here, finding a Delighted Halfling. Well, playing the Delighted Halfling after finding a Shockland. There's the breeding pool. Polluted Delta for the Goryo's player. There's an Urza Saga. Passing the turn here, it looks like. Well, maybe not. Playing the Sylvan Safekeeper. Sylvan Safekeeper, of course, lets you sacrifice a Boseiju you already played or an Otawara you already played to get those loops going. And sometimes you just draw your Shuko. You don't even need Urza Saga to go find it. Polluted Delta, cracking. This is really where early sweepers do shine. And probably why, well, I mean really why Toxic Deluge coming into the format was a really big deal. Of course, a lot of decks that play red still play Brotherhood's End out of the board. Heck, even the Eldrazi decks are running Kozilek's Return. Surveilling a Goryo's Vengeance. Solitude. Exiling an Atraxa to evoke the Solitude. There's the Ephemerate, targeting the Solitude. Hitting the Halfling, hitting the Safekeeper, bringing us to 19-19. Untap, Ephemerate will get exiled. Attacking him for 3, bringing us to 22-16. And there's a Psychic Frog. Urza Saga going to 2. Boseiju for land for turn. And there's Nadu, Winged Wisdom. With a Shuko already out on the battlefield. Let's see what happens. First trigger. Endurance goes to hand. Second trigger. Springheart and Tuco goes to hand. Passes the turn. There's an Archaeologist. Looks like hitting the Wrath of the Skies. Which isn't bad. But there's a good chance that it's one turn too late. Tough position. Weird how when you have a board presence like this, you feel so behind. There's a Polluted Delta. Passing the turn. Saga, floating a mana. Finding a Haywire Mite. There's an extra target. Using 2 mana, casting the Springheart Nantuko. Targeting the Nadu here. Putting a cord into hand. Targeting again. Putting a halfling in hand. Haywire Might. Finding. Oh, there's a land. Making an insect. Surveilling. And this is kind of where it starts to go off the rails. You really need the next couple to not hit. There's a Dryad Arbor, makes another insect. And the Goryo's player will scoop them up from there. Game 3, going to Nadu. And hopefully on the 26th, good riddance. Thank you all so much for watching us here at MTG Scoundrels. If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe. Be a friend, tell a friend. And we will see you all next week. The bird will be dead. Long live the bird.